Welcome to r/Today I F'd Up, where OP almost murders someone. Today I F'd up by trusting a stranger and letting him change my tire for me. I had to run into Walmart really quick on a Saturday. It's always busy on weekends, so I parked pretty far away and decided to walk instead of trying to find a close parking spot. I'm a female in my 20s. I was by myself. I ran in, grabbed what I needed, and I was out in about 20 minutes. When I walked out to my car, I got in, and a guy in his mid-30s knocked on my window and let me know that my tire was flat. I got the creeps because I've heard plenty of horror stories of weird ways that guys lure women out and grab them, but I wanted to check. I keep mace on my car keys, so I made it obvious that I was holding my mace as I did. Sure enough, my rear passenger tire was completely flat to the rim. He offered to help me change it. I said it was okay, that I would call AAA, but he offered again and he seemed nice enough, so I accepted and said thank you. As he was changing my tire, he told me that he saw me in Walmart and then asked me a lot of questions, like how old I was and if I had plans, a boyfriend, and so on. I deflected most of them, but I did tell him that I had a boyfriend and that my friends were expecting me. I noticed he had a gas can towards the front of what I assume was his car. I asked if he ran out of gas, and he said yes, but he forgot his wallet at home. Now, looking back, I'm wondering why he'd be in a Walmart without a wallet. It seemed like he was fishing for me to offer to give him a ride, which of course I would never do. I did give him a little bit of money for gas, and he insisted on trying to get my information so we could meet up and he could pay me back. I said no thanks, it was just a good deed for a good deed and I left it at that. As soon as my tire was done, I got in the car and left. Later that week, I went to get my tire fixed thinking that it was simply flat, but it turns out that there were 3 intentional stab marks in the sidewall of my tire. I'm pretty sure that this was not a coincidence, and I think that having my mace, keeping my distance, and saying people were expecting me saved me from something very terrible. I normally avoid Walmart at night, but this was in broad daylight. Down in the comments, we have a similar story from Zister. I had a similar thing happen to me. I'm almost positive some guy slashed my tire so he could then help me change my tire for money. It was below freezing outside, so I locked myself in the car and waited while my husband drove 20 minutes to meet me. The guy waited outside my car. That was a very uncomfortable 20 minutes. Then, when the first OP asked this OP what happened when the husband got there, this OP responds, "My husband's a very calm and non-confrontational dude. He paid the guy $20 to avoid a conflict. I don't remember if they changed my tire together or not. I don't think the guy wanted to hurt me. I really think he just wanted some money." Today I effed up by showering with my boyfriend and almost passing out from his poop fumes. Because my boyfriend and I work together, we also come home together, and neither of us wants to wait for their turn to shower, so we've decided why not just take showers together. Plus it saves water, apparently. Today was the same situation. Wake up, go to work, come home, and shower. But not even military training would have prepared me for what was about to unfold. My sweet moron of a boyfriend is lactose intolerant. He doesn't care and continues to eat lactose and has the most gut-wrenching, eye-watering, vomit-inducing poops and farts. Today it was a coworker's goodbye party and she brought a tres leches cake, which is a 3-milk cake. And him being a clueless man that would trade me for cake, he took a huge piece. And this thing hit him hard. It hit him while he was showering. Most of us know that in the shower, the smell after you fart is so much more intense. After being under the shower for about 5 or more minutes, the tiny bathroom is filled with steam. While shampooing my hair, my boyfriend exclaims loudly and lets out the longest, loudest, stinkiest fart that I have ever had the displeasure of experiencing, and then runs to the toilet holding his butt. You would think someone was cutting trees with a chainsaw because, oh my god, it was so loud my mouth dropped. And I could taste the disgusting gas that was once a tres leches cake. I started heaving and gagging, which became worse after this huge man nestled on a tiny toilet dropped what you would think was a nuclear bomb. It was wet, loud, and smelly to the point of me almost throwing up on the spot. I instead rushed to the sink that was right next to the toilet that I kind of felt bad for and just started projectile vomiting my breakfast, lunch, and the tres leches cake that will be gone but not forgotten. Every time I inhaled, the absolutely nuclear poo fumes hit me like an 8-wheeler, and I kept vomiting harder and harder. This whole fiasco ended up with me almost passing out. And and my poor boyfriend, who couldn't stop his absolute blood, sweat, and tears out, couldn't do much to help except more and more. We ended up taking separate cold showers and airing out the windowless bathroom by opening the bathroom door and the front door, which got us some weird looks, but I'd rather not die and have death by farts on my gravestone. OP, much like the toilet in your bathroom, this story takes the cake. Today I effed up by almost killing my roommate's brother. I'm using a throwaway account because I'm guessing that what I did wasn't exactly legal. It didn't happen today, but 2 years ago. I was living with a roommate while I saved up for my own place. My roommate was lovely for the most part, but her little brother was always staying with us. Her brother was lazy, never did any chores, and had pretty much turned the living room into his own personal bedroom without ever paying a cent in rent. As unbearable as that already was, he did the most annoying thing that any roommate could do, which is stealing food. He was constantly stealing my food, pretty much every day. It started with him just stealing ingredients like flour or coffee, which I didn't care about. But eventually, he started stealing my snacks and even took my leftover meals a few times. Eventually, I got sick of this and confronted him. I knew that it was him doing this because my roommate was a vegetarian and he wasn't. I confronted him 3 different times, and every time I did, he would deny it or just laugh it off, blaming my forgetfulness or my boyfriend's. This drove me insane, to the point that I eventually just brought my own fridge and put it in my bedroom. As you can imagine, this did not stop him. He even took coffee creamer from my fridge and left it on the counter to spoil. This led to me screaming at him to leave, which made my roommate furious. It turns out she wasn't as nice as I thought, and he just moved back into the apartment 2 days later. My landlord was a jerk, and I knew that asking him to deal with my roommate's brother wouldn't work. However, I did ask to install a lock on my bedroom door, but he said that he would only let me do that if I paid a fee. He was only asking me to pay something like $30, but I thought that was insane and I refused. Not wanting to piss off the landlord anymore, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I knew that my roommate's brother was allergic to strawberries, however, I didn't know how severe this allergy was. I also knew that he absolutely loved buffalo wings. And later that night, in a blind rage, I decided to make buffalo wings with a secret ingredient. Sure enough, my plan worked, and I got a call at work from my sobbing roommate. She was in the back of an ambulance with my brother because he'd had an extremely severe allergic reaction. At the time, she cussed me out for putting strawberries in buffalo wings and not warning anyone. But what her brother had failed to tell her is that he'd snuck into my bedroom to steal them. Once I told her this, she calmed down a bit and was just frustrated. I didn't tell her that I did it on purpose, but I'm sure that she would have put 2 and 2 together at some point. Her brother was okay in the end, although I did find out that he would have died if she wasn't home at the time. He never came back to the house after that, and I only saw him one more time before I moved out 2 months later. I felt incredibly guilty that I could have cost him his life over some food, but at the time, I thought his allergy was fairly minor, and I'm sure he's learned his lesson about stealing food. OP, even if this guy had died, I can't see how that would be your fault. This guy has a life-threatening allergy and he steals other people's food? That is literally a suicidal risk. What an absolute moron. Today I effed up by Dutch ovening my cat. This all happened over approximately 5 seconds. It's a lazy Saturday morning and I'm chilling in bed a bit longer than normal, browsing Reddit and just hanging out. My cat, approximately 12 weeks old, is somewhere, but he's not currently bothering me, so that's okay. While laying in bed, apparently by myself, I'm stricken with the urge to fart. Being a single guy in my mid-20s, I think, let her rip, and thus began my morning from hell. The instant I rumbled the mattress, I felt a mass rush up under the blankets. Unbeknownst to me, my cat was laying under the blankets near, but not touching my feet. He must have heard the thunder down under and panicked. It's important to note that when I make my bed, I tuck the blanket under the mattress. It's a holdover from my Marine Corps days. Well, unfortunately for everyone involved, the blanket was still tucked in on the side the cat was laying on. My poor cat had no way to escape the gas chamber. As a result, he panicked. And what do animals do when they panic? That's right, they bite and claw. My cat, probably choking to death, thus began to try to dig his way out. Not through the blanket, oh no. He tried to multitask and punish me for my sins by trying to dig right through my back. He clawed and bit so hard that he started drawing blood. Now we're both panicking, and I ripped the blanket off as fast as I possibly could. It was a little too late for my cat, as he now has post-traumatic stank disorder. And it was too late for me, because I now look like I fought with a very disgruntled family of raccoons. He leapt from the bed and turned to give me the dirtiest look that I've ever seen a cat give a human being before sauntering into the bathroom, where he remains as I type this. And then, down in the comments, we have a similar story from Slow Crates. I'm about to tell a story that seems too silly to be real, but it feels appropriate right now. One day, many years ago, I was playing the original PlayStation. I can't remember which game, but it was either Final Fantasy VII, Tomb Raider, or Wipeout XL. I was really into it, and I remember having that feeling you get when you're about to finally accomplish the goal you set out for. My cat, Cheeto, had been somewhere in my periphery, but I was too sucked into this game to acknowledge him. He either wanted food, attention, or to be let outside. I don't remember now. In any case, he was getting impatient. Just as I was about to reach my goal, my cat jumped on my PlayStation. It's important to note that the original PlayStation had two large buttons on the top. The power button and the open button. If my cat had stepped on the open button, the lid would have lifted, but the game would have probably remained paused until I closed the lid. Instead, my cat stepped on the power button. But that didn't immediately turn my game off. No, the power wouldn't officially turn off until my cat lifted his paw. There was nothing I could do but stare at my cat while he locked eyes with me, his foot firmly pressed down on the power button. Just as the situation became clear in my mind that my cat had taken control of my life, this mother effer farted audibly. Then, he casually lifted his paw and walked towards the door so I could let him outside. Today I effed up by not realizing the cute gym employee thinks that I'm a trans woman. Ever since the COVID lockdown happened, I've been letting my hair grow out. At first it was because all the barbershops were closed, but then, even after I got my hands on a hair clipper, it became more amusing to just see how far I could take this. COVID had put a stop to my dating life, so I wasn't trying to clean up for anyone. So after a year of letting my hair grow out, it was now shoulder length. Another side effect of COVID is my weight. I used to go to the gym regularly, but I stopped once the gyms were closed due to COVID. I've never been the type to run on the streets, so I've gained about 25 pounds. I have a pretty skinny frame to begin with, so that means that all the fat went to my stomach and now my man boobs. There's just one last piece of information that's important to this story. I'm the type of Asian that has trouble growing facial hair. So, as most of you know, we're reaching the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of COVID. Most states are relaxing their lockdown restrictions, and my gym finally reopened last week. Eager to get back in shape, I went in on the first day of the reopening. I do my thing on the machines, and maybe I pushed myself a little too hard, or perhaps I'm just that out of shape because I was a complete mess by the end of my workouts. I make my way towards the men's room, and this cute gym employee who was sanitizing the water fountain in between the men and the women's room intercepted me. She said, "You can use that one," pointing to the women's room. And in my exhausted and achy state, I only thought that perhaps there was something wrong in the men's room and they closed it off. I go to the women's room, which was empty, and I take care of business. When I came out, she said, "I think what you're doing is brave." And for some reason, I thought that she meant going to the gym again, and I said thanks. It wasn't until I got to my car that the light bulb in my head finally turned on. She must think that I'm a trans woman. The long hair, the man boobs, and no facial hair. Now, it wouldn't be so bad if that was the only interaction I had with her, but the next day she came over as I was running on the treadmill to introduce herself. And because I've been going to the gym almost every day, she and I have developed a sort of friendship. Just today, she asked how long I've been transitioning for, and I said since COVID. I don't know how long I can keep this up for. This is the cheapest gym in my area, so I don't want to switch. OP, I guess the only option available to you at this point is you're just gonna have to become a trans woman. Today I effed up by confiscating my son's Game Boy and hiding it for 18 years. My son wasn't doing his homework, so I confiscated his Game Boy Advance. I told him he'd get it back next week. Well, he's a pretty clever dude and he knew all my hiding places, so I put it someplace he would never look. Except I suffered a traumatic brain injury a few years earlier and I forget stuff. So when he did his homework and asked for it back after a week, I couldn't find it. I looked everywhere. Then we moved houses and I still didn't find it. 18 years later, I was donating some coats that I hadn't worn in a long time. And in the pocket of a trench coat from the 1930s, I found my son's Game Boy Advance. I turned it on and it worked. Pokemon appeared. I put fresh batteries in it and gave it to my 28-year-old son, who then proceeded to laugh for a good 5 minutes. My son played it for a few hours, then proceeded to tell my wife and other kids how silly I was. That was r/Today I F'd Up, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.